Spoilers and Fandom is like a book club for geeky stuff. Join us as we delve into the depth of our backlogs and sift through the games, comics, shows, movies, and books that we haven't checked out yet. Hey everyone, we're finally going to do this. It's been a while. We're talking about Midnight Tides today without any spoilers.
Yes.
And I am Hellsknight.
I'm Hillary.
And I'm Agri.
Yeah, and like we said, it's been a while. This book took us quite long to read.
Yeah, that's mostly my fault.
I mean, it is.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you did in the end, so...
Eventually I did. But
Yeah.
I feel like my experience is also representative of other guys who've been trying to read this book, other fans as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a consistent thing even online. When you follow with other people, you'll see that they got into an issue in this book specifically.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's for the same reason.
So... I've been looking at general reviews.
Mm-hmm.
General reviews, they hint at the majority of people liking this as their favorite book.
Yeah.
But there's always someone who is there saying that this book was like really hard to read.
Yeah.
Harder than even the first.
Yeah.
And comparing it to the first.
Comparing it to the first one, how would you feel? How would you guys feel?
I honestly thought it was harder than the first for me. What about you guys?
Because honestly, I can't say that the difficulty with the first was because it's just a world that you're trying to understand, but it's still interesting. It's hard to understand, but it's an interesting world.
Yeah.
The problem with this one is that it's just so the pacing and the direction of the book is very different from everything else.
Yeah, the pacing especially, yeah.
Because for me, I have to go back to book one to explain how I felt about this book. I was okay with book one being what it was, how difficult book one was to get into. Because the series in itself is fun. It's so awesome to experience, but book one kind of just throws you into the deep end and you figure it out.
Yeah.
This book does pretty much the same thing, but it's married with, which is the first book where he shifted perspectives, House of Chains.
Yes.
House of Chains was non-squad based, yeah.
Yes. So when he shifted from Bridge Burners to House of Chains, that first change of pace and change of storyline and everything threw guys off for a bit. But you're interested in what's going on, so you pick up on it.
Yeah.
Easy.
I think it helps because you can see how it's connected to everything else that's going on in the previous books.
Yeah. So you're just basically getting another perspective of the same story that's going on. Now here, this book takes you somewhere else in the past with somebody else's perspective on a totally different situation.
Okay, let me just talk about the main characters, or the way this book is set up. It's gone back to the squad based thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So again, that's different, a bit different from House of Chains. So the squads this time are Troll Squad.
Yes.
You have Tehol Squad, and you sort of like have the intermediary squad of Saren.
Yeah.
Okay? There are side characters who do their own thing, which is, I guess, a little different. They're doing their own plots. Like Bryce, there's a guy called Bryce, Tehol's brother, who's doing his own thing.
Yeah.
That interacts with, I guess, Tehol's plot and stuff. And you have Udinas, who's doing his own thing that interacts with
Troll's
plot.
Yeah.
So you do have that kind of stuff, and as well as Withal, the blacksmith, the Mekros blacksmith.
Yeah.
But the main squads are there. So it's a little different, I think, from, although it's squad based, it has like more like tinier
groups,
minor characters.
Yeah.
As in more significant minor
follows.
characters.
I would not call Bryce significant as such, even though he seems likable. He didn't really, he only shown at certain points during the plot. Like even Hull, Benedict.
Yeah.
You know, like these characters were there. They had their own stuff going on, but they didn't really contribute to the squad's main plot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the main plots for Troll is he witnesses this. This is sort of like a prequel to the entire series.
Yeah, because it happens before.
It happens before what we've read so far.
So far.
And
actually,
it tells us the
that's
story.
one of the questions that I was wondering, because this book doesn't really state out. It doesn't really say out loud what the timeline is. We know that it happens early on, but how early on is what I'm not sure about. Is it way before even the Malazan invasion of the continent, or is it during? I'm not quite sure how big the time difference is.
Yeah, so the way Book 4 ends, House of Chains ended with Troll and Onrak in the throne room with Minala. And they were, like, basically, they've been trying to convince Troll to tell the story of why he was shunned and what happened.
Yeah.
How he ended up, tied to a thing and in the situation that he was, right? That was, and the way that Troll starts telling that story, and then this book sort of begins.
Yeah.
And it begins like the way Erikson begins most of his books, with like a flashback
to ancient times.
And then it opens up with Troll running.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I'm assuming. Like it's sort of like Troll retelling what was up with him,
or us seeing
in his own words, but we're
seeing
all the other perspectives.
Yeah,
so
or us seeing basically the story that he's refusing to tell, maybe.
Yeah,
or
we don't know what he's actually telling. Yeah.
Yes, so
because he also has that culture thing where he has to remove himself from the event somehow, and he's trying to figure out how to go about that with Troll being Troll.
Yeah,
and it doesn't, like you're saying, it doesn't outright tell you. This is spoiler stuff. I'll save that. I'll save that. Sorry, it's hard to talk about this, but sorry.
No, sorry, but for the most part, like this book. For how I was reading it, was it's like there's a lot of parallels on all sides. Yeah. Like on one side you have Troll and his brothers, and then you have Tehol and his brothers, and they deal with issues in very different ways. Yeah. They want to get ahead they value very different things as a family and as individuals. Yeah. Okay. And those guys go. I'm trying not to give any spoilers.
It's hard not to spoil. Okay, let me just say the basic plot is Troll discovers that Lethari ships have encroached on Tister Idur territory, breaking their treaty, and he goes to report it to his leader Hanan Mossag, the warlock king of the Tister Idur, and the plot kind of progresses with his squad from there. With Saren, we'll get to Saren. With Tehol is a Lethari dude who is impoverished because at one point he played, I guess, I don't know, the stock market or something. He got a lot of wealth and something happened. We don't know what.
But he basically crashed the stock market.
And he's broke.
He is completely broke. Yeah. He lives on a roof. He doesn't wear a shirt. And he's approached by 3 women who want him to really actually try and crash the economy for Lethari.
Yeah.
The Lethari Empire again. The Lethari in this book are humans.
Yeah.
They're very different from the Malazans. They are very capitalist.
Yeah.
And there's lots to talk about them.
They're fun to read. Let me say that. The Lethari, I find them an interesting culture so far.
I found them disgusting. Sure. So his plot is how he goes about that. Him and his squad. And then so Saren's squad is sort of like an intermediary. Her role is sort of a facilitator of trade and stuff between Lethar and the Idur. So she helped, like, I think according to the laws, you need to have someone accompany you who has a license, blah. You know, like bureaucratic nonsense. There's a lot of that in this book.
Business stuff.
And her whole deal is she's transporting goods towards the Edur during this time, and her plot progresses from there. That's the most I'll say about it without spoiling.
I don't feel like, okay, for Saren, it's not that it impacts, okay, so far, it's not that it actually impacts the events that happen, but it's almost like somebody, almost, she's the closest thing to a neutral third party.
Yeah.
Because she's not allied to either side.
Yeah, she doesn't necessarily care for one side, even for her, for the side she's supposed to care, the Lethery, she doesn't really care for them.
Yeah.
But she can see the reactions of one side and see the reactions of the other.
Yeah.
But she doesn't necessarily impact the story through her actions.
Later on, she becomes important.
Yeah, but not to anything.
Yeah, not to these two main plots as
maybe within
such.
this story.
Within the story, not much.
This story,
Exactly.
not so much.
But the way they've set her up, like Erikson does this a lot.
Yeah.
He mentions someone, you might never see the impact then.
Yeah.
Not
2-3 books later, boom.
Yeah. But so you can even see the way they've set her up. It's a bit spoilery, but yeah.
Yeah.
You can see that maybe
guess-
she'll be quite somebody to watch later on.
I guess her plot is really just her being a neutral party, seeing this stuff happen. How does she go about what happens next? Because she does have a lot of character development and stuff.
Yeah.
That will continue. I think. I don't know.
It should.
I hope. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are the three things, and like you've said, there are parallels.
Yeah.
Because Troll Squad is based with his brothers.
Yeah.
Tehol has his brothers, but his brothers are like. See, his brothers are a little removed from Tehol's plot itself.
Yeah, they're more independent.
Yeah.
Yeah. These guys.
But those parallels are there though.
Yeah.
So this is quite a different book.
It is. I like it because of that. Like, I really struggled actually in the beginning because I'm the one who actually held up this podcast. We should have done it like 2 months ago. But
10 months.
between a lot of starting and restarting. Like, I restarted this book probably as much as I restarted Gardens of the Moon.
Okay.
Yeah. But for very different reasons. Like, Gardens of the Moon is just difficult because it's an info dump at the beginning.
Yeah.
Here it is, figure it out. And I like that. This was more of, and now scene transitions. Like, in between books, there was a shift, and he's now telling us about this particular story.
Mm-hmm.
So that transition was a bit of a bug out for me because I really wanted to continue with the previous storylines and follow up with now the characters that we'd grown to love from before.
That's understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So once you get then the book will build up, but then the book does build up really slowly. I'll say that. It builds up a bit slowly, but once it does, just stick with it. It's classic Erikson stuff. You'll just breeze all the way through. Once everything reaches critical mass and the story can't be stopped at that point, then you'll feel it because even the pacing and everything changes.
Yeah.
I think once you mentioned parallels, now I could see, like, for example, it should have been obvious, I think, but for Malazan and the Lethery are sort of a mirror image, or not mirror image, but parallel to the Malazan Empire.
Yeah.
But sort of like the difference being that you can see sort of the different approach. They're both essentially taking over other cultures.
Yeah.
But
one is more military oriented. This other one is more
economic. Yes.
Yeah.
But also the way, just for example, how they administer and how they take over. It's, yes, they're imposing their own wills upon other people, but they're imposing it in different ways.
Yeah.
And also how...
And what they leave behind as well is different.
And also how, for example, when they actually meet somebody who is their match, how the two empires react.
Yeah.
it's very different.
Yeah.
It's very different,
Yeah,
especially at the end. It's very different.
Like Malazan and Darujistan with the first book. And now these guys on the Idur,
even because they have, it's not even just Darujistan, they have, for example, even just from the outset, Pale and...
but Pale weren't a match for them.
Okay, true, But,
like
having actual formidable foes like Anumanda and the Tistandi and Kaladan and the Crimson... Is it Crimson Blades?
Crimson Guard.
Crimson Guard. Yeah, when you actually have adversaries, how the two react versus the Lethery and the Idur.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
Like I saw a lot of like weird, like Funhouse Hall of Mirror parallels of each other. Yeah, like they're similar, but there's a certain skewness to how it is.
Yeah.
I'll mention a couple of other things in the spoiler section, but for me it was mostly that I liked that it was a story of brothers, and even separate from, let's say, even what's it called?
Actually, a quote from the book is how Tehol says, is it Tehol? I think conversation between Tehol and Bryce, how they mention that it's Bryce and the first eunuch. Is it first Nifadas?
That's Nifadas.
How he says that the tale of the Lethery Empire can be told in these three brothers. He has a quote where he says something
of
the Bedicts.
Of the Bedicts brothers. So now I'm actually seeing that.
Because now for me, like, and also I didn't listen to the audiobook on this one. It's still Michael Page, right?
It's still Michael Page.
Yeah, I heard guys saying that this is one of the better Michael Page.
I think he finally hits his stride in this book.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it.
I kind of liked his Karsa though.
His Karsa?
Okay, yes.
Dope compared to...
But I haven't listened to him in this book.
Yeah.
That's why for me the pronunciation, like when I read, you guys are saying Bryce, I read it and pronounced it in my head as Brice. Yeah.
I don't know. I'd assume it was spelled BRYCE or something.
It's BRY.
BHRYS.
Wow.
BRYS.
Yeah.
So for me, I was reading it as Brice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Brice works.
Yeah, it's BRYS.
Yeah.
Brice works as well.
Yeah. So for.
But that's what happens. That's what happens.
Because that's it. But so for me, like those characters really, really impressed me. Like I like those type of guys. Like I like the Lethery a lot. Weirdly.
I don't know about like.
Yeah.
I don't like them at all.
They're interesting. I don't know about like.
Okay, let's say more interesting.
Yes.
So, they're more interesting. More things happen with the Lethery than do with the Idurs.
Also,
sorry.
Yeah. Also, I was just gonna say that the other thing is the only characters that move in this book from the other books is just Troll.
Yeah.
Gothos is there for a bit.
Yeah. Pretty much it.
I think
there's the Cripple God, but
it's those two. Yeah.
But that's it. That there's no other a character from the other books.
Yeah.
So it is a different continent, a different world space.
And again, we don't know the time frame for this, so we don't know how soon these characters will appear or
how long it's been since
since they were.
Because also given a dual lifespans.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Edu lifespans really fuck up
you can't
timelines.
Yeah, it could be hundreds of thousands of years, could be decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry. So, for me, the hardest thing about this book was like you're saying, the pacing was weird for me.
Yeah.
I reread a chapter because I finished the chapter. I'm like, what the hell just happened?
Mm-hmm.
I read it again and nothing happened.
That's the problem.
And it was a long chapter, so I was like, There's a lot of those kinds of moments, like what is actually going on. A lot of people really like the banter between Tehol and Bug.
Yeah.
Oh. Highlight.
For me, that actually started to grate on me as the book continued. It started out fun, but then it started to. I'm like,
so for
just
you,
get to the point. What are you doing?
Like people reacting now. Crapper. It feels like the same. It feels like the same reaction.
But like Crapper was like likable because he would like do stuff as well. With Bug and Tehol, I can't talk about this without going into spoilers.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll save that.
Okay, but I'll say it's not that we don't necessarily. The weird thing is that we don't necessarily see them doing stuff. They say that they're going to set up something, but then
it happens off.
Yes, it all happens off screen, off page.
Yeah.
Where he says we are going to do this, and then he's just told Bug, okay, go and do this, and then this is what has happened because they did this, but you don't see that
the actual action of it being done.
Yeah, and then they keep revealing how enigmatic they are. Slowly, bit by bit, and in very many different and weird areas.
Yeah.
And they talk around people, even as they're making those plans or as they're executing those plans, which is just amazing. Which is sort of like what Crapper does. He talks a lot, and you're just annoyed.
Yes. Because it feels so frustrating about that. But the guys weirdly who I don't know. At some point, I felt like these two guys reminded me a lot of Boschelen and Cobalt Brooch. Yeah, just because the guys, every time you meet them, they're doing this, they're planning for something.
Yeah.
Or they're coming from having done something.
Yeah.
And with those guys, you could see that they're doing X, Y, Z, and things were happening. With these guys, it's more of a slow up burn.
Yeah.
It's not as immediate as those guys.
Yeah.
But I think that they have kind of the same role, but with a bit more.
I think it also points to the difference between the two takes of Malazan and the Lathari, because the Malazan, it's always action that is happening. Everyone is doing some action leading to a reaction that we can see and it's tangible. Yeah. But with this, it's all making an economic war interesting is weird. Yeah. It's difficult. It's legitimately difficult. Like, I can appreciate that. And the fact that he was able to do it with characters, I want to say, not zany.
Yeah, with realistic...
But still make it fun. Yeah. Make me like these characters and make me think of them as fun, even though they're being hilariously dumb, intentionally. Yeah. I still like that.
Huh. And I didn't think of it that way either.
And then I think for me, I don't know whether this is something that other guys would read into it. We've talked about the conflict that triggers this book.
Yeah.
The whole back and forth between the Idur and the Lathari.
Yeah.
It's literally Star Wars Episode 1 shit. Because it's business, right? So if you're not prepared for that, if you're not prepared to...
Yeah, it is, yeah.
If you're not prepared for that...
It is the Trade Federation.
Yeah, it's Trade Federation stuff.
And Naboo. Yeah.
I was surprised. I was like, he can't be serious. But you know what? You roll with it and it does get interesting because you just see how guys are going to pull stunts within all these stories. The guys make it work. I'd say yes. The way Agria said that.
How do you make an economic collapse interesting?
Yeah, how do you make an economic conflict interesting? This is it. This is one of the ways.
Yeah.
But I think it helps that Erikson has already earned our trust.
Yeah.
That really helps. Otherwise, I don't know if I've been able to just jump right in and say, let's go.
Imagine if this was book one.
Yeah.
If this was book one, how would you feel?
I would not have read the rest of it. Yeah, I'm with you on this. Yeah. If this was the first book, I would probably not read the rest of the series.
Would it have won you over by the end of the book? Given how this book is
I still liked the end of the book. And I thought this book was definitely worth reading because of the payoffs at the end of the book. But still, I don't think it was enough to make me read the series if this was book one. I think Gardens of the Moon for me was
the better start.
Was a better start, yeah.
Because is there any character that compares to Rick?
No.
In this, you could compare Iron Bars to Rake, I guess. But this is spoiler stuff. You can't really go too deep into that. There's also Silchas, who you can compare to Rake.
But that,
You know, like...
he's literally like Rick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But he doesn't get to show off.
Like there are really cool characters.
They're cool. The problem
who got introduced.
Yes, but not actually.
But they didn't do much.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the intro to them, rather than where in Gardens of the Moon we were introduced to Ralik Nom, and you know,
Rick and all the guys.
like who's the really with the Daru crew there was Ralik, there was a smooth talker dude.
What's that guy called? The knife dude.
No. The smooth talker.
Yes, the one who seduced the widow.
the name was
Murillo.
Murillo, yeah. Yes. His name is Italian. I was gonna say Murillo. You know, you're introduced to these guys, and they actually end up doing stuff.
Yeah.
With this, you're introduced to guys, and the stuff they do is literally like 3 sentences long. Like Silchas only
he
does
provides a lot of info,
but he's such a cool character.
and he gives a lot of background on the world.
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
He does one thing.
When he does,
he does one thing.
Yeah.
But he's like set up for like future books, I guess.
Yes.
To be like someone to follow.
Yeah.
And even like Iron Bars did a lot more than Silchas, I think. But
I don't think like he's awesome. He's amazing. We will discuss more in the spoiler, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't actually see him. But the thing is, what was done is that we've always had the Crimson Guard mentioned.
Yeah.
Especially in the first 2 books.
Yeah.
They're always mentioned, but we never actually see them in action.
Right.
But just by them showcasing what they can do and where they escaped from in the first place.
Yeah, we
that
need to talk
just
about
screams badass.
We need to. Yeah. What do you think? Like, about the pacing.
The pacing, again, my issue with the pacing was it's just that it changed the characters. I didn't care so much about Troll to start with.
Yeah.
And okay, I'll say this: it was drilled into me eventually to care about this story because it has to connect with where the last one ended.
Right.
So I have to follow this to where it gets to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the pacing, while it was a bit strange, it's fine. It's just that it's okay. It's just that I wish there was something that we were mentioning right before we started this episode.
Yeah.
Where I was saying that I wish we'd gotten this book as mini flashbacks throughout the previous 4 books. Or at least throughout the last book. So that even if we have the last book and this book as 2 books, but this book is interspliced as flashbacks in the last one, yes. But it works like this as well.
When we're talking, I wanted to disagree with that, mostly only because we never really had a Tist Edu character. Because the only time we've seen them, they've basically been deranged and crazy villains.
Yeah.
Basically monsters, like a monster version of the Andy. We never really had a character who can say that, who can flash back and we can understand and maybe sympathize a bit so that we would actually try and be interested in his backstory the way we were with Troll. Because when the last book ended, we were like, hey, Troll and Odrak.
How did he end up? How did he get there in the first place?
Yes.
Knowing now how powerful he is.
Mm-hmm.
How did he get there?
Yes.
Then now they take us to the beginning of his story, literally.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's the only problem that I had with this. Yeah.
It was a bit too far.
Yeah, it was a bit too far. I didn't need all of that. But the reason for I think now I'm happy that we got
Although
that.
you do understand.
Yes, you can understand.
I get it.
Yeah.
But the fact that he took us this way is because he needed to show us his brothers and he needed to show us how different he was.
Yeah.
I'd say also the stuff to do. This is so spoilery. The stuff to do with why the Tister Edur are the way they are with their culture and the way they are doing things, knowing why that is the way it is a huge thing, I think.
Yeah.
For me personally, but I'm being very vague because it's spoiler stuff.
Yeah.
But on the whole, if you had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10.
This was 6 for me.
For you?
5 or 6. I think 6 is fair because I still liked it. I still like. It's not like it was completely.
Yeah. It's definitely worth reading.
Yes.
But
it's worth interesting. It's worth reading only because not only, but it's interesting in the context of the series as a whole. That's what makes it very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Because it feels like there's a lot of setup. It's a lot of setup and background and not much actual happening as far as I can see. But it feels like a lot of this payoff will be a lot later on. Yeah. So I think a 6 is good.
Also for me, I like seeing the action happening on screen rather than off the page.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of that in this book.
That's true.
Yeah, so I
even
didn't
for
get
me,
those moments.
I'd actually started off with a 5 merely because of how many times I had to restart the book, let alone chapters.
Yeah.
But it won me over slowly. I'll give it a 6 as well.
Yeah.
Because now it's necessary. For what it is, you'll get it when you're done.
Yeah.
It's necessary.
And to be clear, I do understand why a lot of people regard this as their favorite.
Yeah.
I do actually get that.
But
I had to read on why people get that. I did check.
I still need to be convinced on that.
I'm feeling like this book, the reason why guys like this book is because it's more, the pacing and the storytelling, while it's a bit different from the previous 4, it's more deliberate.
It's more deliberate, and the parallels between
the sides.
This thing is very clear to our world, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of lectures about society and politics in this book.
And guys usually talk about the motivations a lot more freely in this book than the previous ones.
And some people also just found this just easier to read than the other books, which I don't know how, but sure.
Because it is. I feel like it's a lot more linear,
it was really
and
hard
it
for me.
feels like it has a. It's actually a lot less of an info dump than
Gardens of the Moon.
See, for me, I feel like the first 13 chapters, you can summarize the entire first 13 chapters in just a few sentences, because there was too much of Udanas and Feather Witch's stuff, and I'll go into details about that. I'll go into detail with that in the spoiler thing. But there was too much fluff for me, as well. That maybe that pays off,
But even on the pacing thing that we're talking about, of the 5 books that we have now read so far, this book feels the most like it can stand on its own. Like it doesn't tie with the other ones.
Yeah, and I think this one has a lot more reread ability as well.
Yeah.
Because he's done this thing again where the first time round you won't get it. And if you read it a second time, you'll notice things that you didn't see were there before.
Yeah.
I can't tell you more details about that now. We'll talk about that again.
But I feel like because of that,
right?
Because now the book stands on its own, guys can read it independently of the others. I think maybe that's also the reason why guys like this book. And you can also skip this book. I don't know now. That's what I wanted to ask you guys. Do you feel like you could skip this book in the series?
No.
Like you go straight from 4 to 6?
No.
Then you read this later?
Because I haven't read 6 yet.
I don't know if 6 follows this book. So I think you could read 6 without reading this book.
Yeah.
But I don't.
But I feel
think
like at some point you have to read this book because it feels like there's a lot of setup.
Yeah, there's a lot of backstory here that you do need.
Yeah, like the characters that are introduced here are very cool. They're very cool concepts for characters as well. You have, I won't go into detail, but you have a character called Shurk Ilal. You have a Harlow. You have a Kettle. You have, we've mentioned Iron Bars. We've mentioned Silchasru and Fear. These are cool characters who are who I hope, I really hope that they are getting, like we will see their story, because I think these teams sound really awesome.
Yeah.
In future books, I really hope we get to see them
Like
do stuff.
the crew that's assembled on the ship.
Blah.
And then, can you imagine just the adventures side story with the high seas?
Exactly.
It would
I'm
be amazing.
psyched for that. I'm psyched for that. Yeah.
I don't think we'll get it, but it's just fun to imagine the possibilities.
I really
Not
hope
just
we
the
get
interactions.
it. I
Just the
really hope.
interactions.
I feel like
If we don't
definitely
get
will.
it, I feel like it's such a waste because they're quite likable, and they didn't do, like, okay, Shurk did a bit in this book,
Yeah.
but the others didn't do.
Shurk was basically...
Shurk and Ublala did a bit.
Shurk was Tehol's hand.
Yeah, she did stuff that was plot integral.
Yeah.
To his plot anyway.
Yes.
Speaking of the plot, only one plot really got resolved as well in this book. One of the plots does not get resolved as well. So there was no finality for me
Yeah.
with one of the plots. And
Who's Tehol's or...
okay, let me be specific. Like the plot with the Tisturi Idur does conclude in this book.
Yeah.
Yes.
The plot with Tehol does not.
Kinda, sorta?
Nope. We'll go into detail.
Okay.
But it doesn't conclude. Like what he was trying to do from the start, it doesn't conclude. And
So maybe
Saren's
another book?
Saren's also Saren's, if we look at Saren just being someone who just was in the middle of the things and what she does, you could say that her plot kind of concluded and she has like a new journey, I guess.
Yes,
that she needs
her
to
plot
go on.
concludes
Yeah.
for this story,
Yeah.
for her in the Leathery Empire, but it feels also like her origin story.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
It's just the beginning of the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who are your favorite characters?
Brisk.
Bryce. Okay. Briss.
Tehol.
Tehol.
Okay, combination of Tehol and Bug. I don't
Okay.
think one can be without the other. Yeah.
For me, Bug. But Saren really grew on me. I was like, Saren's a weird one. I think there are parallels with Felician. But I'll talk more in detail about that in the spoiler section. I really like her character.
I disagree,
arc.
but it's kind of spoilery. So
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, should we just call the spoiler spoiler
this
free
episode,
episode?
yeah.
So okay, we're gonna discuss this in spoilers next time. Join us for that. It'll be much longer than this.
We have a lot of issues we need to discuss.
I'm Hellsknight.
I'm Hillary.
I'm agree.
Thanks for listening. Have fun.
Have fun.
Do you have an opinion on what we just discussed? Did we miss something? Tell us in the comment section and we'll read it in the next episode. If you're listening on Anchor, send us a voice message and we'll add it to this episode. Don't forget to follow our podcast on Twitter @SpoilFans for updates, and follow our Instagram for behind-the-scenes action @Spoilers and Fandom. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube and Anchor to get the latest episodes.